Among other things that the Jackson presidency was noted for was his deep disdain for the federal bank, the Bank of the United States. He distrusted the idea of promissory notes as he felt they were unreliable forms of currency. Otherwise, though, really, he saw the Bank of the United States as being a venue for investment of wealthy elites to kind of perpetuate the idea of elitism. And he really held such disdain. And he felt that species such as gold or silver were the only worthy and safe forms of currency in his eyes. So he really had it out with the Bank of the United States, and Nicholas Biddle, who ran the bank, enlisted help of others to support the bank in spite of Andrew Jackson's deep, deep disdain for the institution. And Andrew Jackson ran into several different problems. First of all, he could not, under the Constitution, disband the Bank of the United States. That would be unconstitutional. He had a few other different things in mind, though. The bank was chartered um, all the way to 1836, but in 1832, there was a vote maybe to continue it beyond its charter. And Andrew Jackson vetoed Congress's movement to keep the bank. Congress did not have enough votes to override his veto. So again, it would eventually be lost. In the meantime, Biddle's friend Henry Clay, who tried to help maintain the integrity of the Bank of the United States, would eventually run for president and lose. Okay. Otherwise, though, Andrew Jackson's entire philosophy, outside of his distrust of promissory notes, his disdain for the political class in relation to the Bank of the United States, he really wanted to give more state power. Okay, he wanted to take funds from the federal government and really put them in depository aspects in state banks as opposed to the Bank of the United States. So he withdrew money from from the Bank of the United States, all the government's deposits, and that severely weakened the Bank of the United States. So he could not remove it constitutionally, but he could weaken it. And that's exactly what he did. And so when people tried to resist actually carrying out some of those deposit switches, his secretaries and his cabinet and whatnot, he had them fired, had them removed. Kind of sounds familiar with what some of the stuff going on in the Trump presidency is. How many of his cabinet members have been fired or removed or anything else of the sort? It's pretty interesting. Biddle tried to undercut Jackson's deposits but failed. And once the charter eventually ended in the mid 1830s, the country was left fragmented economically. So a number of different issues came about at that time. But otherwise, though, you have Roger Taney, who now became Chief Justice of the Supreme Court under Andrew Jackson and reversed many of his predecessors' decisions. Otherwise, though, one other thing that served as a key component to Andrew Jackson's presidency, specifically in relation to the Bank of the United States, was that the key to democracy was an expansion of economic opportunity that came about not just with suffrage, but removal of the Bank of the United States. Older corporations could maintain monopolies, according to Jackson. And that's why he fought so vehemently and vigorously to remove the Bank of the United States' power. Economic opportunity and equality could not occur as long as that bank were around in his eyes. And so that was one of the things that made it so exceptionally important for him to try and remove it.